Today I want to talk about my love of anthologies. This naturally stems from my love of stories, and this is an area that anthologies excel at. Not simply building one cast of characters, nor simply one world, but an entire multiverse of peoples and tales and events. Sometimes bound to a single theme, sometimes worlds apart in style. The variety brings it freshness every time. Every new story a rebirth. Don't like this week's tale? Come on back next week to see when everything is reset to zero. It's a melding of the comforting sameness of title and host with the invigorating renewal of new characters and situations. Twilight Zone will always be king of the genre. Rod Serling managed to forge a plethora of disparate tales into this gorgeous tapestry of unique characters, memorable twists, astoundingly cool stories, and inspiring social commentary. That's not to ignore the Outer Limits and its combination of monsters and harder science fiction concepts. Even if you're talking about the originals or the remakes, they all manage to bring something worthwhile to the table. To this day, they are both series that have influenced me both as a geek and a writer. But the fantastic thing is it doesn't end there. Growing up with HBO's Tales from the Crypt was just fantastic. Every week getting a gory, tongue-in-cheek tale of horror to amuse that cannot be ignored. You can dig still deeper and find even more gems like Tales from the Dark Side or Ray Bradbury Theater, or even that cheesy classic Monsters. All of these brought something spectacular to the television landscape, but sadly have become a dying genre. You have the relatively interesting but far too short Black Mirror, and then there's American Horror Story, which combines season arc storytelling with the anthology format to do something fantastic. Even if they do have trouble wrapping up their seasons and living up to earlier seasons. With so much storytelling potential, the anthology series has become far too rare. There came a point for me when I felt like I was scraping the bottom of the barrel, where it felt like I'd already uncovered the best of the best, as well as some minor hidden gems. I don't remember how it happened, but there was a point where I stumbled upon old radio dramas. We've all had some exposure in the past. Most of us know about The Shadow or Flash Gordon or War of the Worlds. But for the most part, they remain a relic of the past, left to flounder there as visual mediums such as television became the home of scripted drama. Well, radio was left to be the home of the latest pop tunes and old men ranting about how terrible the government is. When I ran across the old anthologies that predated even the Twilight Zone, I just had to give them a shot. I sought out what were considered by radio aficionados to be the cream of the crop. And let me tell you, they more than scratched that itch. There's something wonderfully unique about 50s science fiction. It has a certain stone-faced cheesiness that's hard not to love. It was wonderful to find that that style survived even in radio productions. Exemplified by Dimension X and its follow-up, X-1. Each episode would not feel out of place in a late-night marathon or a long-lost episode of MST3K. Even more fantastic is that this can be seen as a prototype that would later be refined in Rod Serling's classic series. Well, their original tales can be amusing. Where it goes above and beyond is that it often adapted genuine science fiction stories from writers now considered to be legends of the genre. Ray Bradbury and Robert Heinlein, to name but two of dozens. Though seen as a relic of the distant past, there were still the occasional radio dramas produced afterwards. One of the better examples was a series produced for CBC Toronto in the early 80s. Nightfall was an attempt to bring in an audience of the growing horror genre at the time. Just as Dimension X exemplifies 50s-style sci-fi, Nightfall lives within 80s horror movies. Using sound to brilliantly bolster a sense of unease as you hear every tear and cut and gory hunk of meat and sinew. Well, their stories were often silly given their local talents. Occasionally they would simply knock it out of the park, causing a gorehound like myself to wince and chuckle, as they brought their horror to life with only voice and sound effects alone. Easily, though, one of the best of the bunch was Quiet Please. Each episode feeling as though the writers were experimenting and playing with some random tale of fancy that came to them. Enhanced by the style of not being hosted and narrated, as if somebody telling you a story of other people, but rather told as if this person is sitting across from you, imparting some bizarre event that happened in their life. It has this very ethereal sense of out of place and time quality to it, which makes it all the worse that it survives in a barely audible form. A poster child of things lost to the past because no one thought they were worth preserving, as with much of radio. As fans of a certain BBC sci-fi show from the 60s are painfully aware. But of course the radio drama didn't die off as an art form. To this day we have wonderful examples. Twilight Zone itself was brought to new life in 2002 as every episode of the original series was translated into radio drama. It featured astounding care and production quality. Not only did they enhance the tales to live on as a new form, but they went out of their way to get genuine actors to voice their characters, of which there were far too many to name. But suffice it to say, it begins with Stacy Keach as the narrator and only gets better from there. Then there's the king of the modern audio drama, Doctor Who. Having an astounding scope of work that rivals the old Star Wars expanded universe for sheer amount of supplementary materials. One of my personal favorites being the Doctor Who Unbound series, which takes concepts and twists them to a new light, such as what if the first Doctor never left Gallifrey? But even more fantastic was they got actual original Doctors to reprise their roles. Feel that the 8th Doctor got the shaft? You have a whole slew of McGann audio dramas to explore, and that's only scratching the surface. Downloading the old shows, I sat down and began listening to them with my grandmother. She, of course, did not have TV when growing up, so had knowledge of radio prior. So, too, had I long inflicted upon her numerous finds in television and movies. Well, there's enjoyment to be had watching or listening to something as itself. There's something wholly else valuable to share with someone you care about, to sit down and enjoy with someone else, to discuss and comment and joke on the whole thing. Unfortunately, she passed away before we could finish any of the series. But still, it solidified them in my mind as both tales to be enjoyed as another era of storytelling, as well as an experience to share. Interestingly, the bulk of the shows listed here exist in the public domain. You see, one of the copyright oddities is that all radio programs produced prior to the 1970s do not fall under copyright protection, resulting in them going public domain. Even then, several after as well, as simply no one thought to copyright them. Now, this brings up an interesting possibility. Because these are in the public domain, I can share them with you as I shared them with Granny. Well, she is gone. You and I and the people you care about can still enjoy these shows. So, with that said, and my increasing efforts to bring you as much content as possible, I'm announcing the launch of RKI Radio Theater here on the RKI Channel. It won't simply be me posting them here. I've got something else in mind. But it also won't be a game night style show. You'll see what I've got in mind. I've got a couple series I'm going to rotate through. You'll get one a day unless I have something else to post. Or maybe in addition to, if you deem it necessary, down in the comments. I've got 52 episodes to start with in the can and ready to go. But this will likely expand in the future. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the new series and the old series contained within. See you next time on another episode of Rantin and Radio.
Adventures in time and space, told in future tense. Dimension X.
People were also using it as a creative outlet. Well, television grows increasingly stale. This little website became the Wild West for video content. Not just posting their own personal bullshit like Facebook, but actually producing professional-looking content for every kind of interest. Using this medium as a way to express themselves and entertain, educate, and forge whole communities.